Hello, welcome to the Wealth Transfer. My name is Terry Saka. I am Chief Strategist, and we're along with Dr. Charles Vance. We're talking global economics, biblical principles, and protecting and preserving your family's wealth. How you doing, Charles?
Yeah, I'm good, Terry. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Man, the last couple of weeks we've been talking about
It's a little more complicated. It sounds complicated, but in the end, what I'm trying to illustrate, we've been fooled, number one. Two, we have to get in the right place with our finances and wealth as a kingdom. We, the people, as a nation, need to be more constitutionally minded. Article 1, Section 8, Congress has the right to coin money, which is grains of silver. Because if you always had been in silver, instead of storing, I shouldn't laugh, but it's true, instead of storing paper money, you would be infinitely wealthier today. Even if it's just a savings account, you store it in silver savings versus paper money, and then you just sell the silver and exchange it for paper later on. And the odds are, at these prices, you're going to probably suffer a lot more, and that's the point here.
You're not talking about buying silver on the stock market.
Oh, can't. It's paper. It's fake.
Yeah, that's all fake.
Right.
So you need to buy physical silver or buy from a silver dealer.
Right.
And have it stored in a vault.
Yes.
So that it's tangible, so that it actually exists somewhere.
Yes, because, we're trying to illustrate why the economy, why the markets are crashing, why we're getting ready to see tremendous volatility. And what they're telling us isn't true. And even about the labor force. You know how they say it's 5% unemployment? That's what this program is going to illustrate, what it really is.
Well, they're playing with the statistics.
Oh, sure. Yes, absolutely. Like, I want to just jump right in because this is very interesting. Here's something. We're going to get into two labor scenarios to help people see kind of through the lie of this. This is known as a two labor story. Now, in this, we have what they call civilian unemployment population. And then you have what they say is unemployment, okay? Look at on the right side of this. Now, you notice most of the chart travels together, right? Both those lines. That's because we were kind of measuring a little more truthful. And all of a sudden, things start to change. This was, when the left was in the 90s, when we actually had truer economic measurements. And you can see, so you notice they traveled together, right? We started getting off cue in around 2003-04. You notice the line started splitting. You notice that right there in the middle. The top line starts splitting from the bottom line. That's showing you that what the government's telling you unemployment is isn't true to the real number. Okay? Now let's go down to the bottom. The bottom right, the top line that is taken off, is what the government says the unemployment rate is. The bottom line is telling you what the real unemployment rate is. It's almost 10%. Actually, it's even higher than that when you start calculating other things. But this is just the core type of data.
Now, this is
civilian population.
This is talking about employable people.
Absolutely.
People that can actually hold it. It's not talking about measuring children or anything like that.
No, this is employable people. But the reason this chart is so important to understand, in the middle they started with data manipulation. The left side is in the 90s when we had true data. What they're trying to tell you is the unemployment's less than it really is. Then everything collapsed, we know, in 08.
Let me ask you this. What's their motive behind that? What's the government's motive behind that?
Make people not be so, keep people from panicking that the economy's bad.
Oh, okay.
Get out and spend your money.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
See?
Gotcha.
So if on the right side here we see the line goes up so high because the government's saying our unemployment's only 5% right now. But the fact is, on just the core data itself, it's really 10%. So, now, if it was 10%, Charles, people would be in a panic.
Well, sure. Where's the differing? Why is there a difference? What's the government measuring that the actual measurements are not showing?
They're not measuring people who ran out of unemployment benefits.
So they're taking those people off of this list?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. They're not calculating all sorts of things. It's amazing how they rationalize this. Once you start getting the lawyers involved and teaching you how to rationalize a half-truth to, it's amazing stuff. It's so dishonest. But the bottom line is, for we the people to understand, is they're telling us it's 5%, and it's not. It's a lot higher. And I actually have data when you start really getting into the core. it's more like 18% unemployment. So it's a Great Depression level.
So they're giving you information to manipulate you.
Absolutely. Well, they want you to spend money.
Yeah.
I'm saying better be careful spending what you have in savings, and you better be in the right place for savings, right? Because this isn't even close to being true. Because remember, how we'll know that? For those that have the revelation of Jesus Christ, remember, wisdom and the truth will set you free if you stay in Him.
Didn't we see or hear just a few weeks ago, and I'm not sure where that is, we're taping a little bit ahead of time, but didn't we hear that Walmart is closing like 100 and some stores? Something?
Well, absolutely. The retail collapsed. And, not only did retail collapse, the global economy is. I mean, we talked a few weeks ago how I was saying, for the first time in my knowledge, we didn't have a shipping container in the Atlantic Ocean.
Does that mean people are buying less?
A lot less, Charles. A lot less.
So the currency, that Kensington system, is starting to break down because people are not keeping the currency moving. It's a debt-based society.
Yes.
So the people have to borrow money, spend money, credit cards, pay it back, and it has to keep moving in order for the system to stay intact.
Yes, and Charles, I'm saying not only has it beginning to, it is. And you have Japan, you have Europe in negative interest rates. You have Canada, negative interest rates.
Tell people again what that is.
One of our own central bankers even said we need to go negative interest rates soon. Meaning they're going to charge you a lot of money to keep your money in the bank.
That's crazy.
They're going to charge you. They're going to force you, if they can, to spend your money.
Now, they've really been conditioning people with that for years because most banks charge you to have a checking account.
Right.
Which is,
but this is going to be bigger.
Yeah. But I mean, in essence, they're conditioning your mind because they're already telling you, we've got to charge you for us to keep your money and move it around.
But the concept of a negative interest rate really means the economy is in deep trouble.
Sure.
Not just the United States, but globally. Now, what they don't like, they can't charge you negative interest if you're holding God's money. God's money isn't in the bank, you see. The banks are not the all-end-all. They're just not. When they were regional banks, mom, pa, local, they were legitimate. Well, most of them anyway. A lot of them.
Sure.
Once they went commercial and huge, now next to a few, it got slippery and it got, let's just say, dishonest real quick. And the whole central banking, anything centrally organized is really dangerous and really bad. That's what goes into the socialism, by the way.
And that comes down from the Federal Reserve banking system, the whole system that is put in place, where they are the ones that have this money printed or this currency printed. They're allowed to put this in the system.
They've actually convinced the whole world that it's a good idea. So the whole world's doing it right now. Well, that's why when this reckoning happens that's coming, only real tangible assets will preserve wealth. When all you have to do is talk to an Indian. In India, when the currency collapsed, there are so many places. Matter of fact, Puerto Rico is on the verge right now of an absolute economic collapse. I mean, this is all over the place. So I'm really saying, if you're not away from the fallout, or let's just put it this way in my military terms, if you're in a blast zone, you're going to get hurt. And the blast zone in this reckoning is going to be cash, paper, money, stock market, bond, banking system, all that. That's a blast zone if you only saw the data as we see. So it's very, very important as we evolve in teaching and educating you on this transfer that you get properly diversified and wake up to truth. And the best way to do that is to be educated. And here's a good way to get started.
Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked hard to gain. For those who have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, we would like to send you a package of information regarding the changes to the dollar and the challenges of our economy that you need to be prepared for. This package includes how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA for long-term protection of your hard-earned wealth. For those of you with cash to invest, we can arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or simply send it to your home. Call or register now.
Now, Charles, a lot of this data won't sit well because it shows a declining America to an extent for we the people.
Sure.
So it's really important to understand one thing. Yes, it's a decline in America. It just is. And we have, what, 100 million people unemployed and so forth. But what more important, obviously I'd like everyone to go to work. I love our whole nation to be prosperous again, for real.
Absolutely.
But that's unrealistic. It's not happening anymore. We've blown it out. We're done. So what's important for me, and I think for us here, is to help those who still have assets, who still have wealth, get protected so then the kingdom's wisdom can allow us to grow our wealth, to help those less fortunate, and to continue the gospel, spread of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Hey, you know, I want to insert something that we were talking right before we went to the break. Most people are not aware that this is not the first national bank that's been in existence since the United States has been in existence.
Correct,
this is the fifth or fourth
or fifth. Right, yep.
What has happened to all the previous banks is they've done exactly the same thing that this banking system is doing. They keep printing money that they don't have anything to back it with, and after a while it got to the point that it just completely collapsed. They either had to redo the currency and say, we're going to give you 1 for 10 of yours, and your old 10 are not worth anything anymore, or they just completely went out of business.
Now, you know, I think what a good way to do this, most people know the Great Depression, right?
And this one's been in business longer than any of the rest of them.
40 or 50 years now,
Yeah, and doing more junk than the other ones.
Because they got smart and they had computers.
Sure.
But let's do something people know, Great Depression. In the Great Depression, what happened was, it wasn't a stock market crash. We had literally gone insolvent as a nation because we were gold-backed and silver-backed. We were insolvent. The only reason we came out of the Great Depression wasn't the socialist agenda of get the people working and that whole, you know, I don't even go into it, but it wasn't him, okay? It wasn't that. He did a good job. He did start looking after some people, but that was the first socialist movement we had. What it was, gold started coming over from Europe because Hitler was attacking in the mid-30s, and Europe wanted to protect their gold from Hitler, so they sent it to the United States for protection. We started then getting gold for goods and services because we were sending goods and services over to Europe to help fight off Hitler. We became extremely wealthy because of World War II initially. We got 75% of the world's gold at that time, and it made us wealthy. So we were insolvent, as Charles said. We went out of business as a country. The currency was worthless. They had to do something. And then, of course, they did. They brought in an ounce of gold and converted it and made it worth 50% less overnight. And that's exactly what they do today by printing money. Your buying power dropped off. But that's the only reason we were saved out of that one, and that's the Great Depression. The other ones you probably wouldn't have caught, but this one you would. Everyone knows about that Great Depression. Now, what I'm contending, we're already in standards of a Great Depression today, but the government are paying people off. So instead of seeing food lines all the way around buildings, they're giving welfare people food stamp debit cards so you don't see the lines. But it's the exact same thing. So we're already in it. An important thing to get from this, we must protect ourselves and be, as the body of Christ, and be in the right asset, because it's going to continue to get far worse. And let me show you a piece to kind of get started on that. This is wages and salaries, and I want you to see this. Unfortunately, and I know this when I said they're not going to like the data, Charles, it's this one right here. On the center camera, we could do this. On the left there, in 1970, we came off the gold standard. That was known as the guns and butter peak of the 60s.
What's that mean?
Well, it means we were actually a real earned income generating, real wealth nation. We really were.
Okay.
We had, remember, I said we had 75% of the world's gold after World War II.
Sure. Okay.
We were a wealthy, real wealthy nation. Ever since we came off the gold standard, we allowed the government to print paper money. You see that red line declining. We had an energy crisis of the 70s and 80s with Iran. Stagflation, financialization booms, internet booms, then the recovery, then the housing boom. You notice, though, it kept going down. Wages and salaries kept going down.
Now, some people would would say, well, we're making more money now than we were making
Not to your buying power.
That's the point that I want you to make.
Everything. Because they do that and they're false. That's a false statement because you may think you're making more money in salary, but to your buying power, you're not.
Well, 50 years ago, look at what it cost to buy a house compared to now the same size
Absolutely.
home.
Cars, houses, clothes,
anything like
shoes, milk. We've done this numerous times, right? Now, so the important part of this is it has been declining ever since they got off the gold. What I'm trying to illustrate, hopefully I did a decent enough job. Once we came off of God's money, honest money of gold and silver as our standard as a nation, we have steadily been in decline. Yes, it's taken 40-some years. The reckoning's coming. The cycle of this all through history going to 600 Lydia, 40, 50 years. And there's a change. We're at number 46 right now.
People miss this probably because most people are not students of history.
And most people living today were never there in the 70s.
Well, and they don't care about what happened in the 70s.
They don't understand the correlation.
Exactly.
Connections,
And it does repeat itself after a while.
Absolutely
In order to get a different harvest, a buddy of mine said you got to sow a different seed. And if you keep sowing the same thing over and over again, the same thing's going to keep coming up. The only difference is more of it is going to come up.
And what's sad about this that I didn't finish mentioning, this is amazing, Charles. Think about this. From the 70s, where we were at the peak of economic engine, late 60s really, to today, you notice it was wages and so forth, salaries declining ever since. The only time you saw it, if you notice, look at this, the only time it went above that trend line was the internet boom. People made a lot of money in the internet boom.
Sure.
Here's the problem. Immigration has destroyed that because all the wealthy paying jobs of internet and networking and computers are now being taken over by foreigners paid half the money. I know people that used to make $125,000, $450,000, great salary, good living. Now they're paying $60,000, $70,000 to foreigners from India and other places. It's downright criminal in my world because we should be looking after our people. They don't give a rip about we the people. I'm telling you, we're not. We're just whooping boys to that. And I know it sounds harsh, but the facts is facts, right? So the point is, it's been declining all along. But here's the thing. In the 70s, we only had about 180 million people. So not only have those wages and labor and all that declining, we have 150 million more people in this country. So most of the country doesn't work or produce anymore, and they don't make anything. It's so sad. Most people don't make anything. They actually did a survey and found that 50% of this population has less than $500 for savings, emergency.
Wow.
Now, why is this important for those that have assets, IRAs, retirement accounts? Because the reckoning is coming. And I know we talk about it all the time, it probably gets really sore to hear, but it's just, point is, it's true. And while the reckoning is unfolding, remember, Armageddon means to be an unveiling, and we're going to look behind and see the truth of the deception of Lucifer. So while this is taking place, for us that actually have assets like IRAs, 401ks, for all those folks, even baby boomers for that matter, that work so hard for what you have, you better be in the right place, because when the reckoning unravels quicker than you think, right now it's slow. It's moving so slow, most people don't see it coming. It's called incrementalism. Just like they did morally, how they destroyed our nation in the last 7 years. I mean, God, I never thought I'd be seeing what I'm seeing now. I mean, now, you know, men and women go in the same bathrooms and showers. It's the weirdest, perverted thing I've ever seen in my life. And somehow they're trying to jam it down us that that's normal? Really? So the thing is, we are being led to the trough of destruction. So if we protect ourselves, we have the ability to have assets to keep up not only the fight of Jesus Christ, but to spread the gospel, to help those to Jesus who are lost in the world, and have an inheritance actually for our children and our children's children, because we have to maintain the fight. How do we do that? Well, the best investment you could ever make is in education. Here's a good place to get started.
Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked hard to gain. For those who have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, we would like to send you a package of information regarding the changes to the dollar and the challenges of our economy that you need to be prepared for. This package includes how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA for long-term protection of your hard-earned wealth. For those of you with cash to invest, we can arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or simply send it to your home. Call or register now.
Now, I know this seems kind of deep, to some extent, only because it's kind of like got to grab it and what does it mean to us. But let's keep this in perspective, because what I'm saying is we have been declining for some time. God has the ability, as we're keeping this thing posted behind us for that reason, God has the ability for those that stay in Jesus Christ. You will have wisdom, truth, revelation, and you will be guided to not only to maintain, but I believe to even be wealthier than we could have ever been, because we're in the right place with our information. Because we have not changed. This can't go away. This next image is about the same thing in the 70s. We were an industrial age. We were in an industrial world. Now, that black line in the middle is the end of cheap oil, which we're now back to, by the way, which should scare everybody, and the start of a post-industrial economy, and the end of the gold standard. So it was a start of fire economy in what we call financialization. Credit, 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 printing money, printing money. But if you've noticed, the productivity of our country and all those lines are of Germany, U.S., Japan, and United Kingdom. The productivity of our countries has absolutely declined from 4% on this ratio all the way down to negative, meaning we're going backwards. Meaning, ever since we came off the gold standard globally, we have declined as nations, and we're producing less and less and less, and more people are on welfare, welfare, welfare. So this is, I know that, why this could be hard. It's been going on for 40 years. I get it. I'm saying this is a reckoning, though. And this reckoning period is now. We're getting ready to see a massive change to something soon. And if you've been working 30 years, 40 years to save what you have, you better take this seriously. Because the only place you'll be safe when all this happens is in real tangible assets. Why? Number one, silver is the most consumed commodity next to crude oil. It's needed in everything, from cell phones, computers, medical technology, solar cell systems, you can go on. And we have been using it so much so that we used to have 12 billion ounces above ground in the 70s when we came off the standard. Today, we have barely 900 million ounces of silver left. It's going extinct. So you know how that works. Whoever holds it, the real stuff, will have a fortune in the future. And now, that chart was one. Now look at this next one. This is self-employment and entrepreneurship going from the 40s of World War II. Look where we're at now. Self-employment and entrepreneurship has collapsed. We have become enslaved by the corporate system. And it's really sad because it's gone. Look at this next one. Staggering decline in participation of work. This is unbelievable, Charles. This reflects the male-dominated sector of entrepreneurship and small business, the local baker, the this, the that.
So the small businesses are basically disappearing.
Disappearing because of corporations.
But the small business is actually what built this country.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Yes, and built the employment. 75.
There's a real danger in that. One of the reasons is a lot of people don't understand this.
I'm glad you got that. That's good.
When there's a whole bunch of something, when one of them goes away, it's not a big serious problem. But if all of this is consumed by just a couple of big ones, then when one of them goes away, it's a real big problem.
Real big problem. 75% of employment figures come from small business.
Wow.
Corporations have taken over the system. Corporations and the banking system are all in bed together. Corporations control it now. And now we see even the mega corporations like Walmart closing hundreds of stores. There's a red flashing alarm bells going off everywhere. Small business, the local baker, the local this, the local that, was always the engine of this nation. I don't know if we ever get back to that again. I'm not sure what's coming. Many believe it's just going to have to play out. We're going to get raptured, and here it is. And if that's the case, the majority of this nation will not work. They will be enslaved, and they will live off of welfare. And the government will ramp up the engines of corporate world, and they will finance it all. And then there'll be a handful in the middle that'll be maybe an upper middle class type scenario. But it's just dangerous for us that have wealth. So your IRAs, 401ks, those are the ones in the crosshair. So what we've outlined in participation, this has been going on for a while. Wait till you see next week when we start outlining where we're at since the crises started, women in the workforce, how all this has played out. And when you see the magnitude of 100 years and how it's kind of rolled over, you're going to understand that this has to happen. So we need to get properly protected and preserved in order to endure. So next week, we'll fill you in. God bless you.
Tell somebody about the wealth transfer. We're on at the same time every week on this station. You can also watch these programs at cornerstoneassetmetals.com. Right up on the top, you'll find the TV archives. Make sure, again, you join us next week. We'll see you then for more of the wealth transfer.
Asset Metals has focused on using gold and silver reserves to protect your assets from volatile currencies. Another hard asset that is just as important for your sustainability is food. We believe that preparation is a key to being successful in an unstable economic environment, so we started CAM Ready Food just for you. The Bible tells us that Joseph used the resources of Egypt to prepare for a global famine by storing up food in a time of plenty. His preparation not only preserved the lives of his family, but many others as well. At Cornerstone, we believe the time is now to re-examine this biblical lesson so that you and your family can be prepared for any disaster, job loss, food shortage, or economic instability. You can start preparing today by visiting our website, camreadyfood.com, because food truly is the ultimate currency. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked hard to gain. For those who have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, we would like to send you a package of information regarding the changes to the dollar and the challenges of our economy that you need to be prepared for. This package includes how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA for long-term protection of your hard-earned wealth. For those of you with cash to invest, we can arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or simply send it to your home. Call or register now.
To be more constitutionally minded, Article 1, Section 8, Congress has the right to coin money, which is grains of silver. Because if you always had been in silver, instead of storing, I shouldn't laugh, but it's true, instead of storing paper money, you would be infinitely wealthier today. Even if it's just a savings account, you store it in silver savings versus paper money, and then you just sell the silver and exchange it for paper later on. And the odds are, at these prices, you're going to probably suffer a lot more, and that's the point here.
You're not talking about buying silver on the stock market.
Oh, can't. It's paper. It's fake.
Yeah, that's all fake.
Right. So global economics, biblical principles, and protecting and preserving your family's wealth. How you doing, Charles?
Yeah, I'm good, Terry. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
And the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about it's a
little more complicated.
It
sounds complicated, but in the end, what I'm trying to illustrate, we've been fooled, number one. Two, we have to get in the right place with our finances and wealth as a kingdom. We, the people, as a nation, you
need to buy physical silver or buy from a silver dealer,
right?
And have it stored in a vault.
Yes.
So that it's tangible, so that it actually exists somewhere.
Yes, because we're trying to illustrate why the economy, why the markets are crashing, why we're getting ready to see tremendous volatility, and what they're telling us isn't true. And even about the labor force, how they say it's 5% unemployment. That's what this program is going to illustrate, what it really is.
Well, they're playing with the statistics.
Oh, sure. Yes, absolutely. Like, you know, I want to... Hello, welcome to the Wealth Transfer. My name is Terry Saka. I am Chief Strategist, and we're along with Dr. Charles Vance. We're talking, just jump right in because this is very interesting. Here's something, we're going to get into two labor scenarios to help people see kind of through the lie of this. This is known as a two labor story. Now, in this, we have what they call civilian unemployment population. And then you have what they say is unemployment, okay? Look at on the right side of this. Now, you notice most of the chart travels together, right? Both those lines. That's because we were kind of measuring a little more truthful.